Hey guys, today you'll be pleased to know that we are moving on from enzymes. Instead, we're going to focus on something called homeostasis and how organisms use this something to maintain a stable internal environment. If you've watched the previous video, you should remember that we spoke about the importance of maintaining a constant internal environment. If you can't remember, you'd better re-watch the previous video as this stuff can turn nasty. Firstly, just a quick recap on everything so far. Enzymes need specific conditions to function at an optimal level. These conditions include pH, substrate concentration, and temperature. We need to maintain a constant internal environment so our enzymes work efficiently in order to achieve optimal metabolic efficiency. If these conditions change and the enzymes stop doing what they're doing, our bodies will stop working properly, and learning about this stuff will be the least of your problems. The question is, how do we maintain a constant internal environment for our enzymes to work at optimal efficiency? The body is a fickle thing, and no amount of sweet talking or bribing is going to do it. Instead, an organism's stable, constant internal environment is maintained through the process of homeostasis. The beauty about homeostasis is that it allows an organism's stable internal environment to be maintained despite changes to the external environment. So there could be a zombie apocalypse going on outside, but the insides of your body will be working perfectly fine. Until you get bit, then that's a whole different problem altogether. Let's explain homeostasis using an example. If the human body becomes too hot, homeostasis will work to cool the body down and ensure that the body temperature remains relatively stable. Similarly, if the human body becomes too cold, homeostasis will work to warm the body up to ensure a constant temperature. A really good way to understand how homeostasis works is through a sine curve. Optimal body temperature is demonstrated by the straight line. When there is an increase in body temperature, the body is able to detect this change to counteract the change and help the body cool down. If the body cools down to a significant extent that is under optimal temperature, our body is able to detect this change and therefore increase body temperature and counteract the change. This process continues so that when temperature increases, the body detects this change and counteracts this change and cools the body down. If you're feeling a bit confused, then we may have a problem. Just kidding. Our next video will explain this concept in a greater amount of detail. Today's video is just an intro into the whole homeostasis thing. Let's use a second example, just in case the temperature example didn't stick. The body maintains a constant amount of water in the body. If the human body does not retain enough water in the body, homeostasis will ensure that it will reabsorb more water into the body. Similarly, if the human body retains too much water in the body, homeostasis will work to reduce water reabsorption into the body. Yes, there is such a thing as drinking too much water. In the next topic, we'll learn how the body is able to do this using the kidneys through something called osmoregulation. Once again, we'll be using the sine curve. The straight horizontal line is the optimal water level. Like temperature, the parts above the graph represent points where there is too much water in the body. The downward slopes depict when the body detects the high levels of water and is reducing this so that it can reach the optimal water level. The areas below the graph represent the low water levels in the body. The body is able to detect this and is increasing the water levels in our body to ensure that it doesn't deviate from the optimal water levels too much. So there you have it. Homeostasis is the process by which organisms maintain a relatively stable internal environment. For homeostasis to work, there are two stages that are required to maintain a relatively stable internal environment. These stages are detecting and counteracting change from the stable state. Using temperature as an example, the body must be able to detect the increase in temperature and counteract this change by activating cooling mechanisms. So next time you break out into a sweat, just remember that it's completely natural. Your body is doing what it's supposed to do, even if it's unpleasant and it causes you to smell rancid. Using water levels is another example. The body must be able to detect if there are low levels of water in the body. The kidneys will then retain more water within the body to ensure that this change is counteracted and that the water levels return to a stable state. And there you go, your intro into homeostasis is done. Let's finish up by going over the new concepts we learned today so you won't have to rewatch this too often. Firstly, Homeostasis is the process by which organisms maintain a relatively stable internal environment. Why do we need homeostasis? This is because enzymes require specific conditions to function at an optimal level. If enzymes fail to function optimally, our metabolism will slow down, and the body will cease to function as effectively. Secondly, let's recall homeostasis using body temperature as an example. An increase in the body temperature will cause the body to reduce it as a response. This decrease in temperature helps the body reach its optimal temperature. Similarly, if the body temperature decreases too much, our body will activate warming mechanisms to increase its temperature and keep it close to its optimal temperature range. This is best illustrated using a sine curve that shows us why homeostasis is able to keep it at a relatively stable constant temperature. The body is able to detect and counteract a high temperature and low temperature in our body. This concept can also be used with osmoregulation, controlling the body's water levels to ensure that it is kept at a constant range. Thirdly, homeostasis involves detecting change from the stable state and counteracting change from the stable state. This third concept will be explained in greater detail, and you will be able to see it in the next video tutorial that our body contains very specialized cells and organs that are able to detect and counteract these changes in the internal environment. We will once again use body temperature as an example, so you will at least have some idea about what's going on when we explain how our bodies maintain a constant internal environment despite the hot external environment. All this stuff is easier than it sounds, honestly.